Hello, everyone. It's Howard Gearhauser alongside my dad, Dr. G. In today's video, we are going to talk about artificial light at night, and that's abbreviated ALAN. So what does artificial light at night do to our circadian rhythm, which are those internal clocks that we have within our body that are really important for our health and kind of the timing of all of the hundreds of thousands of chemical reactions that are happening in every second in every cell in our body. So artificial light at night has a lot of science around it now to how it disrupts our circadian rhythm, how it can disrupt our sleep, and kind of wreak havoc on our health. So we'll do a deeper dive into artificial light at night. And we're also going to give you some practical steps that you can take to protect yourself from it and make sure that you are taking advantage of all of the new technology that can help mitigate this exposure. So let's dive right in. Dad, can you talk a little bit more about artificial light at night and how it impacts our health?
Yeah, this Alan is a bad dude. So Alan, artificial light at night, is a bad dude. And he's getting more belligerent as time goes on. If you see a picture of the Earth from a satellite and notice, a lot of the populations on the coast, and you look at those cities like, say, San Diego and LA and San Francisco, and you go to the East Coast and you see Miami and every big city along the coast, it's lit up like it's daytime in the middle of the night. Now, I know as a kid, I thought that was exciting. One time I went to New York City and saw Times Square, and it was like daytime and night. I go, this is nirvana. This is just, and so many people get that feeling of being in New York at 3 a.m. It's just like noontime. You could lay down and get a suntan. But is that kind of disrupting our physiology? We know it is. The evidence, there's no doubt. The evidence is very clear. Howie mentioned disrupting our circadian rhythm. So the circadian rhythm research won the Nobel Prize in medicine and physiology in 2017, where they worked out, how the light hits the retina and it transmits a signal along the nerve to the suprachiasmatic nucleus in our brain, and that is the master clock, and that master clock then affects gene expression, which then affects the peripheral clocks. And so we have these clock genes, which code for clock proteins, and the clock proteins then code for controlling some of these, thousands upon thousands of chemical reactions per second, and they need to be controlled. So if you have a symphony playing, but each member of the symphony is playing their own song, and there's no conductor, and there's no organization, well, that's what's happening inside of you when you get artificial light at night. You're telling your suprachiasmatic nucleus in your brain, it's noon and it's 10 p.m. And so the reactions are doing a noon thing, hey, we should be out, spearfishing or, whatever. We should be out. It's noon. We can see the best right now. Let's get out there and catch something, our hunter-gatherer ancestors. But here we are, it's 10 o'clock at night. We should be ramping up our melatonin and getting ready for sleep. But does your body do that? No, the melatonin shut off because it's noon, according to your eyes, because you're in Times Square and you're basically screwing yourself.
So the artificial light is imitating the sun. Is that what's going on?
Yes, the visible light in the sun causes that neurologic signal that starts in our retina. So those retinal pigmented epithelial cells collect that light, and they send the signal then to set the clock. So the artificial light has those same wavelengths in it, and it the artificial light, like the light we would use inside our house, and especially so with the newer lights, the LEDs and the compact fluorescence. So the old time lights, which are called incandescent lights, the Edison lights, those are more like a sun spectrum. Now the sun spectrum still isn't good if it's 10 o'clock at night, because you're telling your body and your master clock that it's noon, and it's not. You should be ramping up for sleep, not ramping up for spearing a fish. So the incandescent lights at night would still be a problem, because the light is the stimulus to set the rhythm, whether it's artificial or not. The wavelengths in the newer lights, the LEDs and the compact fluorescence, have a larger spike in blue. So we don't see them as blue, we see them as white, but the blue is one of the frequencies that stimulates this response for the circadian rhythm.
So naturally, like before this artificial light epidemic, we would never have that spike in the blue light frequency once the sun goes down, because that's not in fire or anything like that, right?
Well, we'd get it a little bit with a full moon. So the sun reflecting off like a full moon. And, we talk about old research in medicine talks about lunatics. Lunatics are people that go crazy at a full moon. So it's out there. The moon affected us as well. The blue light from the moon disrupted us, and that made the lunatics out there. And some of those are still around, lunatics. But I think most of us are lunatics now, because we have so much artificial light at night. We're just a world full of lunatics. I mean, look at the satellite pictures of the Earth. That to me is disturbing. But there are people out there that know this dark is good. And we have even the government, keeping some, like here in Arizona, we have the Grand Canyon. It's a certified dark area. So you can't, if you live there near the Grand Canyon, you can't put a street light in your yard or whatever. There's rules against it. Here in Arizona, everybody thinks a lighted yard is good. So all my neighbors have night lights all around the yard to, put a nice beam on that particular cactus, so it looks good. My home looks more attractive from the outside at night. It's crazy, but that's what we do. We should try to become dark adapted. We should try to have a dark environment. Then our melatonin levels go higher according to how dark it is. And so if we live in a city and there's a street light right outside your window, you might have to get some blackout curtains so that you can have a dark environment at night, keep your melatonin optimized, or you can wear, a mask, a sleeping mask.
So this blue light stimulation that's not coming from the moon, which is like an every night thing with people watching TV and looking at their smartphone and having this blue light literally penetrate their eyes right before they're trying to go to sleep. It's no wonder that we have such a hard time secreting melatonin and getting into that deep sleep. And maybe with the full moon, maybe there's more of a spiritual reason for why you would be more active during a full moon. And that's why there's blue light that, hindered the melatonin from being secreted.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I remember as a kid, going on nighttime adventures when there was a full moon, going out and, hey, wow, I can see almost like it's daytime. And that kind of, it was like a stimulus that like once a month, I'm going to go on a nighttime adventure. Maybe that was something that was important for humans. And I'm sure there's research on that I'm not familiar with about the importance of the moon, and maybe the importance and the moon also affects us magnetically. We feel the magnetic pull of the moon, just like the tides feel it. So the moon probably has more effects than we realize, and it's going to be something that will probably be studied more in the future. Unfortunately, science is bogged down especially in medicine, trying to develop drugs, or especially in physics and biology, going down dogmatic positions, and instead of just trying to discover how do things work, with the childlike quest for figuring things out, discovering how things work, instead of trying to promote your dogma of, oh, well, this, the Earth's or the cosmos started with a Big Bang. That's it. That's in the textbooks. There's no other way the universe could have started. These dogmatic things that come out, and then new evidence starts showing, well, hey, maybe this doesn't fit a Big Bang theory. It isn't allowed to get any error in the scientific literature because the gurus have become dogmatic in their beliefs, shut down the research. And that's something that happens across all fields in this modern day. But because of the internet, we can talk about these things. And I think that's going on in all fields as well. So I think this is a time where we can, and that's why we do this. We're passionate about finding the truth. Don't take a dogmatic position that, oh, I'm only going to eat a ketogenic diet, or I'm only going to be a vegetarian, or I am, going to only take the drugs my doctor prescribes for me because that's the scientific basis of how they determine those drugs work. And, the pharmaceutical industry is a criminal organization. But that's a whole nother topic.
Yeah, so let's get back on track with the artificial light at night. So there's a lot still being studied about this, but what can you do now? Like what are steps that you can take to make sure that you're protecting your eyes and your body from this fake light that's disrupting your circadian rhythm, that's disrupting your deep sleep? So one of the recommendations that we talk about in a lot of our video episodes is to wear blue blockers. Now, it's important that you get a certain type of blue blocker. Can you elaborate a little bit more on what type of blue blocker should be purchased and what's the reasoning behind that?
All right. Well, as I mentioned, the blue frequencies are the ones that set that circadian rhythm. So we need to block those. And then some of the green frequencies, about half the green. So green, there'll be, different shades of green, and that's a spectrum of different frequencies of green. So about half of the green frequencies suppress melatonin as well. So we need to block part of the green and all the blue. So if you get something that as far as we know now, this can change. This science is piecemeal, but what it looks like now is anything below 550 nanometers, that covers most of the green and all of the blue. So all the frequencies below that, there are glasses that block that you can buy. They're available in lots of different places. You can even have your optician coat them with what's called a BPI tint, BPI 550. So it gets all the frequencies below 550. That's going to cut out blue and part of the green and preserve your circadian rhythm. They know from studies that your melatonin doesn't drop if you wear those glasses and expose your eyes to light. Now, there are some studies, though, showing that blue light exposure to your skin can drop your melatonin. So it's complicated. The best is to turn lights off because maybe our skin is involved with this. And how, if you are not covering up your face with something and you're looking at a screen and wearing blue blocking glasses, you're still getting blue on your skin. So it's not ideal to look at screens late at night, whether you're wearing blue blocking glasses or not. So ideal is everything off. If you're going to look, at least you preserve your melatonin, which is really important when you're looking at screens at night. Blue light, though, also blue light, if you look at frequencies of light, it goes from, if you look at a rainbow, the rainbow goes from red on one side to violet on the other. And right next to violet is blue. And so violet is the highest frequency of visible light, and it has the most power because the smaller the wavelength, the more power contained in that light. So violet's the most powerful. So blue is next. So blue is powerful, and that's why blue triggers our circadian rhythm because it has more power in its wavelength. So blue light triggers our circadian rhythm, and we want to block that at night. Red light, which is in fire, has a much lower power, so it doesn't drop our melatonin levels. So if we're looking at the light spectrum, there's goes from violet to red, and the blue and the green are the problem frequencies. Now, the problem with wearing blue blocking glasses, and one of the bad exposures that I would say, is driving at night, especially now that LED lights are the worst as far as brightness and a huge spike in blue. So a lot of people have LED lights now in their car lights. So if you drive at night, you're really shooting yourself in the foot, because if you wear the BPI 550 or block 550 below, it's not safe to drive because you won't see well enough to drive safely. So another thing that I recommend people do is try not to drive at night. Now, another thing people do is they block part of the blue spectrum at night. But what I was getting at before, when we talk about the power of the light, is that blue light has more power, so it tends to damage our eyes. So new studies have shown that blue light is related to age-related macular degeneration, where our retina degenerates. Now think of all the blue light we get exposed to, our indoor lighting, looking at the television, looking at our screens, looking at our cell phone. We get tons and tons of blue light, and it's powerful light, and it doesn't have red in it. Now, what do we use red for? And this is a whole nother topic that we'll go into, photobiomodulation, where they use red light to repair cells, to grow hair, to erase wrinkles. Red light regenerates, okay? But an LED light in a car headlight, there's no red or very little red, because that saves energy to not have to make the red and just the blue that helps you see. So when we look at these blue lights with more power that tear down the tissues in our retina, without the balance of the sun has the red, the sun always is 42 to 50% red and infrared at all times. So anytime you're letting that sun come into your eye, yes, it has blue that creates some damage because it has the power, but it has the red that regenerates. And that's why our eyes, that's why the hunter-gatherers didn't invent sunglasses. They didn't need them, because your eye does fine in natural sunlight. In fact, a story I've told before, John Ott, in his book, Health and Light, told about the story of Albert Schweitzer, who the primitive tribesmen in Africa, they got into this fad where their status symbol was wearing sunglasses in their dugout canoes, going naked, but they wore sunglasses. And I don't know how many years after that, but they came back to the village. They'd never had a case of cancer in that village. And 10 or 20 years after the sunglass craze, cancer was common. So no cancer before sunglasses. Years later, when all the males had sunglasses because it was a status symbol, even though they didn't have anything else from the modern world, they just had the sunglasses, no McDonald's hamburgers or French fries, and we didn't even have clothes, but had the sunglasses, and cancer started creeping up in their civilization. So we do not need sunglasses. We should not use sunglasses. That's a whole nother topic, and I know that's controversial. And here I'm wearing glasses, but I keep them down like this. So that sun with the full spectrum of red and blue and everything in between, violet, is getting in my eye naturally. I don't use these. These block some blue. These are computer glasses, so that's another option. They're clear, so they only block some of the highest frequency blue, which might save some of the wear and tear on your retina, but it's not going to preserve your melatonin. So this would not be a good thing to do at night when I want to build my melatonin for health and sleep. These clear glasses that you buy at any of the uh, optometry centers, Lens Crafters or whatever, Nationwide Vision, all these places have these clear looking blue blockers that they say these are for using your computer. And that's maybe not a bad thing to do, to block some of the high powered blue while you're on your computer, but it doesn't block enough so you still see blue. And that's so you can see everything that's on your screen. If you have a true 550 block, blue light will be invisible to you, and that's why it's not safe to drive with a glass like that.
So a good rule of thumb, don't wear the sunglasses and cover up in clothing and sunscreen when you're outside, but wear the glasses and cover up when you're inside, especially at night, because the blue light might penetrate the skin. Again, there's studies showing that blue light might have an impact on melatonin just through skin absorption, even if you're wearing the blue blocking glasses. So you should see my dad at night. He's like completely covered up with the glasses on, no lights on. He takes it to the extreme. For me, I try to cover up and wear my blue blockers. And you'll know your circadian rhythm isn't being impacted by blue light when you're waking up with the sunrise. So as soon as that blue light penetrates the atmosphere in the morning, you'll wake up. So you don't want that blue light in your eyes at night if that's the thing that's causing you to wake up and for melatonin to degrade. Is there anything you wanted to add there?
No, I think that's good. The blue light doesn't penetrate very deep into our skin. So red light penetrates deep into the body, but blue light stays on the surface of the skin, goes in about 1 millimeter or 2. But it could have an effect there. And as I say, there has been a study that shows that melatonin drops just by putting a little flashlight on your calf. That melatonin can go down. Now, I haven't seen that study replicated, so I'm not, not living my life based on that. But it's something to keep in mind.
So, these are all ideas. Just take them into consideration. Try some of them out. See if it helps. Maybe you'll get that deeper sleep, or you'll be feeling more energized when you wake up. It's a good habit to get into because we just don't know exactly how this new technology and the things that we're altering, the impact that they have on our health for sure. So we think it's better to be safe than sorry. Wear the blue blockers, cover up, make sure you're getting a lot of natural light exposure. And we'll do a separate video on some of the actual apps and whatnot that you can download for your computer and for your smartphone that can take out the blue light, or you can just look that up on Google or YouTube as well. There's a lot of great stuff on that. But that's it for this episode. We will see you guys on the next video. Thanks.